Who of you owns an Xbox? So for you, there's a book out there by Bunny. Who of you owns a PS3? Whoa, that's a majority. So with all these consoles, which means a lot of computing power at our hands, means a lot of stuff to do what we want, at least to my definition of ownership and property. So how to peek into the PS3 and consoles in general, here's Fail Overflow.
All right, great, thank you. So speaking of owning a PS3, actually we'll get to that in a minute. I should start out by saying that I'm Bushing, and here we have Sven, Mark-Ann, Seger. We are Seger, excuse me. We are just 4 members of Team Fail Overflow. Unfortunately, we sort of overflowed the number of speakers, so the rest of them are, here in the front aisle. It's an international team with, I think we have members on almost every continent. Let's see. We may be familiar faces because 2 years ago we presented, Mark-Ann and I presented on some of the hacks we'd done for the Wii. A year before that I had demonstrated the first unsigned code execution on the Wii here at 24C3. 2008 was the full reconstruction of the allowing it to be completely broken. That was a fun couple of weeks. So, on the subject of the Wii, since that's really what we have the most experience with or are most known for, Wii's been out for about 3 years. It's been 3 years since we demonstrated that unsigned code execution. In that time, Nintendo has released 9 firmware updates, and of all those updates, 8 of them were contrived. Only one of them had an actual real feature that somebody would want, namely the ability to run games off of an SD card. Every single other feature was background improvements to improve system performance, which really was their code for patching vulnerabilities. According to VG charts, they sold about 73 million consoles, which I think is the highest of all the consoles, if I'm correct. And of those, we estimate that about 30 million of them were produced before they fixed the bug, where the hash comparison bug that we had disclosed. And so these people were fortunate enough to be able to run BootMe, our alternate bootloader that we wrote for the Wii. We actually ended up putting a lot of time into that because one of the biggest challenges for us hacking on the Wii was not really the protection, but really the fragility of the thing. The software is very, very fragile, and there are very, very many ways to accidentally brick the device and no way to fix it. So we put time into making something that would simply let you unbrick your Wii. And as of, I believe since September of this year, we are proud to announce we have 1 million unique users of the Homebrew channel. So that's over 1% of all users of all owners of Wiis have installed our Homebrew channel. So that was so I'd say we had a pretty good run.
So let's take a look at what consoles we have here. So there's first the Wii, which was released at the end of 2006. Then the Xbox 360 which was released about a year earlier, and the PS3 was released at about the same time like the Xbox and like the Wii. And so the Wii was pretty much broken from the beginning because they were like drive chips which allowed pirated games to be run and GameCube homebrew. And then after a year it was like fully broken, and Nintendo tried to fix it again and again, but well, they failed. So in the end it's just broken, and it's still broken, and it probably will be broken. So then we have the Xbox 360. It has a really good security system, and there were only like 2 major hacks, which was the King Kong hack, which was demonstrated I think 2 years ago, or 3 years, and then the JTAG hack. But those were minor bugs, and Microsoft was just able to fix them. So, okay, the drives are completely hacked, so we could also mark the whole thing here in red and in blood, but well, we don't care about piracy. It does not allow homebrew code, and we don't care about running code others wrote. We want to run our own code. So, and then there's finally the PS3. So the difference here is that the PS3 originally supported Linux. So no one really cared other than one single thing where you cannot really use the 3D features on Linux. So they found some way to get around that. Sony pushed a firmware update because they didn't want that, and they fixed it. So, well, but still nothing happened. But then Sony decided to release the Slim. So they claimed they don't want Linux, or they're not going to support Linux because they want to save money. Well, today we know that this is bullshit because Linux just runs on the Slim without any huge code modifications. So it was just something they claimed to do, but it's certainly not true. And after that, people actually started to care. And a few months later, GeoHot tried to break the hypervisor, which is going to be explained later. And Sony's reaction was to remove Linux. And then finally the jailbreak happened. And yeah, in the end we're going to present some new hacks. And the PlayStation 3 is likely going to look like the Wii afterwards.
So, hi, my name is Michael Style, and I'm not actually part of those guys, but if you remember, there's been a console hacking talk for at least the last 8 years, every year. And every once in a while, I get a cameo in one of these talks because I look at the big picture, at the statistics about what's going on in the hacking space, and it's always the same thing I want to say, which is Linux is inevitable. Either you support Linux on your hardware, or it will be hacked, so it'll run sooner or later. Correlation is not causation, but I have some good statistics to back that up. So if you look at the devices, so this is the slide that I gave, that I presented 3 years ago in another one of these talks. Were the systems that were available at that time, and the years when they came out. How good the security system was, so darker red colors means very good, very sophisticated, very complicated security system. And as time progressed, it got better, but the smaller systems still had weaker security systems because it just wasn't that easy to implement them in smaller space. This column shows you how long it took to have these systems hacked. And yeah, there's some correlation between a complicated security system and hacking the system. And the question is, why did it get hacked? And the statistics clearly show here that, except for the first one, the PlayStation, a very long time ago, all of them were always done for the sole purpose of running homebrew software, running Linux, just running your own code because you own the hardware. And there has always been that side effect of, well, if you open it, if you can run anything on it, you can run pirated games on it because the keys have leaked or the whole DRM system is just not in place anymore. But there's one here that is special. No, wait, let me first update the slide. So the iPad, same thing as the iPhone. Okay, so let's look at the PlayStation 3. This one is special because, well, the security system looks like it's kind of sophisticated, and as of, well, 3 years ago, or even a year ago, it was not hacked. But so this has changed. So now after 4 years, it has finally been hacked. And you could say it's got hacked for piracy, homebrew. I let those guys decide and argue on that. And of course, there's always the side effect. So piracy is possible, or was possible, whatever. But you could also look at it from another perspective, which is, if you just assume that PlayStation that we had in that list was the old PlayStation where Linux was possible, and that was the whole reason, as I argue, that it never got hacked. It ran Linux already, it didn't get hacked. Never. So now, let's update this for how long did it take from the point when the system was closed until it got hacked. And then we have just 12 months here, which is pretty much the same as the Xbox 360, with a similar security system anyway. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so before we're going to talk about how we can break the security system, we have to talk about how the PS3 actually works. So what Sony did was to ask IBM for their cell processor, which is called the Cell Broadband Engine, and they put it in there. So this is essentially just a 64-bit PowerPC, and they have like, which is on the bottom left there, and they have like 8 SPEs, or SPUs. That's synergistic processing element. It's just a fancy name for a vector processor. So each of those things has like 265 kilobyte of memory, this memory can, well, it cannot access the rest of the memory. It can just DMA from and to it. And so they can use this for security because there is this special mode. So at the bottom you see the local storage. It's usually you have like the whole thing is available from the PowerPC. You can just read it, you can write to it, you can even stop the SPUs and look what they are doing. You can even write a debugger on the PowerPC to like totally inspect what's in every single register. However, when isolation mode is enabled, an authenticated binary is loaded, decrypted, and verified by hardware, and the local storage gets closed down. All the debug features are disabled. So the only thing you see is the pirate marked in green there, which is like a small area used for communication with the PowerPC, and the red area is blocked and only accessible from the SPU itself. So Sony can use this to like hide things or implement some stuff they don't want us to see. So then we have how code running there. We have the hypervisor at the top, which can virtualize multiple logic partitions, and usually the only thing running there is level 2 or game OS, which is like some kind of kernel that provides support features for games and so on. And games itself are running in problem state, which is the PowerPC user mode. And level 2 and level 1 can communicate with the SPU in isolation mode usually. What usually happens, or what Sony does, is that game OS calls level 1 with some hypercall, tells it to like load the SPU, load some loader on there, and let it decrypt stuff. But game OS itself can do this as well. So, and now we're going to talk a bit about the boot process. So what very first, okay, that's actually wrong. It's actually a bootloader here. Oh, well, yeah, so bootloader essentially loads level 0, which is some PowerPC code running in hypervisor mode. The sole purpose of this code is to bring up the PowerPC, bring up another SPU to load medloader, which then loads level 1 loader. So those are just isolated binaries used for like loading more stuff. And finally, level 1 gets loaded here. And yeah, just continues with loading another SPU, loading medloader again, and loading level 2 loader. So what medloader just does, it decrypts level 2 loader, then level 2 loader decrypts finally level 2, which is then running in kernel mode on the PS3.
So red is SPE and blue is PowerPC. So the
Yes.
two CPUs kind of interleave their code.
Yeah.
All right. So let's look at the security systems of the different consoles. There's a whole bunch of features that consoles can share in their security systems. So let's compare them. So the first security feature that everyone puts on is a hidden boot ROM that can do something special. It was implemented in the Xbox One and the Southbridge chip, and every console after that has put it in the CPU, which is very nice because you can't easily read it, and obviously you can't override it with a mod chip. So you pretty much need that. After that, of course, people use public key cryptography to authenticate code that runs on consoles. So both the Wii and the 360 have that. And why am I talking? Oh, reading the next slide. Yeah. So yeah. No, I was looking at the next slide. Okay. So all of the 4 consoles have that. And the Wii and the 360 also have on-die key storage, which hides keys so that you can't easily read them from external memory or anything like that. The PS3 kind of has that, but it doesn't work very well. Since we have public key crypto, of course, you want to keep that chain of signed and verified code running from boot, so you need a chain of trust. The Xbox, the 360, and the PS3 do that. The Wii tries to do that, but they only verify installed code at install time, so that kind of breaks the chain of trust. That's why it doesn't get that point there. The Wii, the 360, and the PS3 also have per console keys. The Xbox One did not have that. So these keys can be used to encrypt things like internal code and tickets and things like that to be unique to one console. The Xbox One, the 360, and the PS3 have signed executables. The Wii doesn't sign executables, it kind of signs packages. So it's an outer layer. With signed executables of codes, of course, you ensure that any code that you run on the system is authenticated before running it. Okay. The Wii and the PS3 also have a coprocessor. You saw the Secure SB on the PS3. And the Wii has what we call the Starlet, which also runs all the security code. So this helps isolate the security subsystem from the rest of the code and prevent exploits from sort of leaking into the security stuff.